Twilight Syndrome. I've previously taken you through the first two games in the series, the Twilight Syndrome duology. At the end of the second game, we learn that the trio's series of adventures have been partially orchestrated by some kind of entity, why they were brought here, and why Mika, the airhead of the trio, is the only one that remembers their old world and their past lives. Well, I suppose we'll have to dive in to find out. So sit back and relax and let me, for probably the first time in English, take you on a journey through Moonlight Syndrome. Mika is waiting at the train station for Arisa to show up so they can go somewhere. The train that they're supposed to take together rolls into the station and Arisa is not here yet, but an announcer informs the passengers that the train is delayed until further notice because of an accident. Arisa then shows up and conveniently the announcer lets the station know that the train will now depart from the station shortly. On the train, Mika asks Arisa how it's going, and Arisa asks her to stop trying with the pleasantries. They then start to get into an argument about which one of them is the true basic bitch that watches too much TV, but Arisa asks if they could just cut it out, and they do. She then asks what Mika is gonna do after she graduates, and Mika says that she doesn't know. Arisa tells her that she should figure that out now before it's too late, and reminds her that the thing that happened in the apartment to the kids happened because they didn't want to grow up, because they didn't know what was waiting for them in adulthood. Mika says that what Arisa said just sounds like really cool, but that she has no idea what it means. Arisa knows she's trying to deflect because she doesn't want to talk about it, and she keeps going on and on and on, with Mika occasionally interjecting. Arisa drops the subject eventually and begins telling Mika about a weird dream she had last night. I won't tell you about the dream because it's a prophetic vision of what is about to transpire over the next few hours in the game, but told with kaijus and Dragon Ball Z references. Arisa concludes her story and Mika asks what their plan was today, and Arisa says that she doesn't know and that Mika was the one that called her, to which Mika replies that she didn't, and that she thought Arisa was the one that called her. They both realize that they don't even know each other's phone numbers, and they begin to sense that something is off. Then Arisa falls asleep, and Mika yells at her to stay awake, but it's too late. She falls deep asleep. And as she does, Mika feels the tiredness come over her as well, and then she nods off too. And then he appears, the silver-haired boy. She doesn't recognize him, and she asks if he's here all alone and where his mother is and how he knows her name. He answers that he knows everything about her purity and her lack of honor. She calls him a pervert, and he tells her to not be afraid. It's gonna be okay, he says. Mika yells for Arisa to wake up, but she's fast asleep. The boy interrupts her yelling and says that it won't help. Even if people were awake, they would be too caught up in their own issues to notice anything going on. Mika yells again for Arisa to wake up and yells at the boy and asks him what he's doing to her. He assures her that she'll be fine, and that he has something to show Mika. Mika asks him to please wake Arisa up, but he just repeats himself. She says that she's not in the mood, and he asks her what happened to her sense of curiosity. This takes Mika off guard, and she becomes a little bit interested. The boy says that he's prepared this place just for her, and that he's gonna show her something that appeals to her sense of curiosity, and tells Mika to pay attention to the man further down in the carriage. Mika can then suddenly hear what the man is thinking. He's going on about how work is killing him and how he doesn't feel like he belongs with his family anymore. His wife seems alien to him, and he can recall having seen his kids in months. Mika is excited by her new ability, but she doesn't quite understand it. And when she turns to ask the boy questions about what just happened, he is no longer there. But his disembodied voice tells her to just enjoy it. Mika then gets up and moves a little closer to the man in the carriage that she was listening to earlier. And as she moves closer, it's also like she peels away his mental layers. And she starts to hear his deepest desires. Arisa from finance, if only she would notice him. He would love to bury his face in her chest. That is his dream. But she will never lower herself to his standards. Mika mumbles to herself that she can't believe that someone at that age would be that horny. She moves on to the next carriage. And she comes upon a couple telling each other how much they love each other, and how attracted they are to each other, and how they appreciate each other. Mika thinks they're full of shit, and she hones in on the girl's energy, and she can hear that she thinks the boy's piercing is tasteless, and that he dresses like he's a wannabe band member, and comments that he's so dense that he doesn't even notice that she wants to break up. The man, meanwhile, is thinking that the woman wears too much makeup, and that he's tired of her holding out on wanting to have sex, and that he fantasizes about just making her. Fucking ew. That little nugget of wholesome mess makes Mika disengage from their minds, and she exclaims to herself that she can't believe what these two people want to say to each other, and she wonders what Arisa would think, and she figures that if Arisa knew what these two were thinking, she certainly wouldn't want to be friends with them, and I'm with Arisa on this one. Further down the carriage, she comes upon an old woman, and while she doesn't think she'll get much from her, she nonetheless hones in. The woman is thinking of her husband. He is no longer with her, and she thanks him for giving her a good life and hope he is happy where he is, and that men of today could learn a lot from him. And based on the last guy we just heard, I agree. She would like to see him again, and she hopes that he will come and take her with him because she's tired. How sweet. Mika has no other comment to this other than, yeah, jeez. And I can only agree. Well said, Mika. Yeah, you said it. Next to the old lady is a cool and stylish man, and Mika hones in, and she realizes that he's not so cool and stylish. He's worried that Mika is looking and worried that if he made a move, he would make a fool of himself. And then he tries to reassure himself that he's too good for her, and that she's not even worth the trouble, and that he's happy in his relationship, and that he could get way hotter girls anyways. Mika thinks to herself that he's a creep, and she wishes she knew who his girlfriend was, so that she could tell on him. She then moves on to the next carriage, and she comes across a gaggle of old women, and mumbles to herself that this should be good, and it is. They act all sweet to each other verbally, but in their minds, they have venomous thoughts and harsh opinions of how the others dress and how their children behave. Mika thinks to herself that she hopes this isn't how all old people feel about each other. Next to the gaggle, there is a smart-looking woman, and Mika hones in and learns that she is going on a date, and that she is very nervous because she feels like she's getting too old for the dating world. And since her career isn't going anywhere, she feels like she has to find a husband now before it's too late. And then she begins trying to plan how she can lure her upcoming date in so she can make him hers quickly before it's too late. That all got a little too much for Mika, and she quickly moves to another person in the carriage. She feels like there's a stern air about a man that catches her eye, and when she hones in, she can hear how he wants to slaughter everyone, and that he is very angry. He says that he's strong and smart, but it's not enough, it's the world that's wrong. This guy is an incel and a potential school shooter, or would have been if Japan had more liberal gun laws. Mika disengages and wonders if it's healthy to be thinking like that, and Mika it's not. In the next carriage, she hones in on two young people and figures they are fantasizing about something dumb. And they are. The woman sitting down is fantasizing about being swept off her feet by some kind of fictional character, and she feels thankful for having him in her life. The other woman is thinking about Oscar Wilde and contemplating the meaning of his words and why we are put here on this earth, and if our path in life is already set in stone by the time we are born, and so on and so on and so on. Mika felt dumb listening to that and has no idea what any of it meant. Further down the carriage, she hones in on a gang of school children. They wonder about happiness, think that the Final Fantasy games are rad, think that the TV is full of lies, and that the CGs are weird, and asks themselves if this is even a game. And then think to themselves that grown-ups are weird, and then think of their various crushes and of course PlayStation, and that this is like in Evangelion. Mika is absolutely overloaded with their thoughts and thinks to herself that it would make sense since they are kids. Their thoughts, they would be quite scattered. She then moves on, and that's... what? That's Ryo. But she doesn't recognize him. But like when she met him in the beginning, she still thinks his outfit is very unfashionable. She tries to hone in, but she can't get anything, just a buzzing, and then she wonders how come. The door to the back of the train then opens and she's drawn into a light, and then she begins questioning what is happening and thinks that this shouldn't be happening and that she shouldn't know these things about people. The silver-haired boy's disembodied voice is then heard, and he says that this is how people are, this is how they feel, and insinuates that it would be better if Mika wasn't here anymore. Mika replies that it's no picnic being alive, but it's not too bad, and that she likes being alive. The boy says that the world is full of sin, and that she should come with him, and that he has things to show her, and then all we see is darkness. The boy is chatting with Ryo, who is now awake. Ryo asks why he's here, and the boy says for no particular reason. He just wanted to see how he would react to just being around again. The boy says that the arrangement they had has changed, and that Mika is just a substitute. Ryo says the boy can have her, and the boy tells him to stop playing, and says that he knows how Ryo feels about her, if only because she is the spitting image of his beloved sister. Ryo tells him to shut his fucking mouth. The boy says that Ryo is responsible for Mika's soul, and then Ryo shouts, how? What is he supposed to do? He has no way of protecting her from the boy's tricks, and then asks why he can't just leave him in peace. The boy asks if he's blind, and if he can't see that it was fated that he meet Mika in the first place, and that everyone is where they are because they are supposed to be, and then his voice starts to fade. The boy says that it's Sumio who is in Mika's heart, and wonders if there is even space left in there for Ryo, and says that he will leave that up to Ryo to find out. Ryo then wakes up in the back of the train, and all of the names of all of the people involved in this mystery, they run through his mind. Meanwhile, Mika is somewhere else. She remembers being on the train, but senses that she is no longer there. She sees a flash of something but doesn't quite know what it is. She wonders if it's the world of insanity that the boy was talking about, and if she can finally see things for how they are, now that he has opened her eyes. She then gets a clearer look, and she sees that she is getting flashes of herself, and is embarrassed that she looks so untidy. She wonders what the boy is trying to show her, and she feels like she's tired of asking questions. The boy tells her to look to the light. It will make all of her problems go away, and asks if they should go. She says that she doesn't want to, but the boy says that the choice has already been made. She tries to refuse again and says that she's not ready yet. The boy warns her that he has a bad temper and tells her to do as she asks. She refuses again, and the boy says that there must be something wrong with her mental faculties. Ryo then appears and shouts stop and tells Mika that the boy is a demon. Mika replies that no, he's a god, he's here to save her, and the boy tells Ryo that it's too late. Ryo then begins asking the boy again, why? Why does he need to save her? He doesn't even know her, he doesn't even know why. The boy shows him a vision of Mika and Sumio being together in some way, and Ryo asks what all that means. And then he gets a vision of Kyoko. Ryo asks Kyoko for help and guidance, and he then understands. He needs to protect Mika, and then the light becomes blinding. Back in the carriage, the boy talks to himself and says that he hopes that Ryo and Mika will be happy in the place where they are at, and asks Arisa if she thinks they'll be happy together. She of course doesn't answer because she's still asleep, and just replies with snoring. The boy says it doesn't matter, and that she and the others will never figure it out. He then says that it's time for her to wake up, and then he tells her goodbye. Arisa wakes up and wonders how she could just nod off in a place like this and sleep this soundly, and then she wonders where Mika is. She exits the train and sees that she's at the station where they got on the train. She looks around the platform and can't find Mika, but she finds her keychain and wonders where the hell she could be. The announcer is heard over the speaker, and he's telling everyone on the platform how they are very sorry that the train was delayed 1 hour and 40 minutes, but that the train will be departing soon. And then, as the train pulls out of the station, Arisa is standing on the platform just wondering where the hell Mika is.